And so with SIBO, we don't have enough acids there on the bile side. So then we have a harder time breaking down fat. And then a lot of times that fat will create indigestion, putrefaction, because it's not being broken down. Now, when we run certain stool tests, we'll see increases in a metabolite called steatocrit, which is a breakdown of the fat. That means it's not being broken down in the stomach. It's coming out at higher levels, which means we're not breaking it down. So steatocrit's a big deal because steatocrit, if we don't have good fat digestion, we probably have some protein digestion issues. We probably have some enzyme and acid issues, and we probably have some gas issues, some bloating issues, because these things require good digestion. And if they're not being broken down well, we're probably getting some methane or hydrogen gases kind of rising up from that.
And we're talking on the subject of bloating, but it's very common that someone with these issues you're describing, they're also going to have issues with energy and probably mood, like anxiety or depression, because you're mentioning this issue with fat digestion, protein digestion. Now you're not going to get the aminos that you need to fuel your neurotransmitters. So it's very rare that somebody's going to come to us and say, "Hey, I'm just bloated and I have nothing else." Usually, along with that bloating, you're going to have these tangential symptoms too, like anxiety, depression, fatigue. And so I encourage people, you can focus on one smoking gun, like bloating, as your big thing you're coming in for, but you got to make sure you understand there's a bigger, deeper connection to your mood issues too. So this is the person who's on brain. Someone just commented about severe brain fog. We could hit that too, but somebody might come in and say, "Hey, I'm bloated." And then you tease apart their case and you go, "Oh, okay, so you're actually anxious too. You're on an antidepressant and an acid blocker." And this happens every day, all day. So just to clarify, number one, we hit low stomach, or we hit infections first. Number two, low stomach acidity. You mentioned low bile in the gallbladder. Also, let's give a shout out to people that don't have a gallbladder. What about these poor
Yeah.
people? They're going to need a lot of supplemental
Yep.
help for the rest of their life. And so, unfortunately, this is a very, very common procedure done in the US where the gallbladder is removed. And so these people are going to need some purified bile salts forever, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
And then
What's your
again,
opinion?
oh, absolutely. They're going to definitely need bile salts and some extra enzymes like lipase. But again, you got to get to the reason, why did that gallbladder issue even happen? Now, most people, it's women in their 40s who have an overweight issue. And so, what tends to be driving that is usually food allergens, whether it's grains or inflammatory foods, but also estrogen dominance. So, if you have an imbalance in estrogen, estrogen is going to help promote more fat storage. So, you obviously you have more estrogen, more fat storage. A lot of times, you're going to have PMS issues too. So you may be moody, irritable, um, sleep issues. You could have fibrocystic breast issues, tenderness, a lot of pain around PMS time. So you got to get to the root cause of that as well. So we started out with just bloating, but you can see how then this estrogen issue can affect bile levels and good bile flow, because estrogen causes everything to get really stagnant and not flow well. And then you start having mood issues and PMS issues and maybe even fertility issues. So you can see how you start at one point, which is bloating, which is the topic of the video, but then it can spiral down these other kind of tangential pathways.
Yeah, not to mention too, let's just say it started out with heartburn. I just want people to kind of visualize this. So let's say it starts out with heartburn. You go to Target and you buy Prilosec, which is over-the-counter acid blocker medication. You reduce your stomach acid even more, but you feel some relief from the heartburn. And let's say your spouse had H. pylori. You guys pass that between each other. So now you've got even more reduction of stomach acid levels. You're on the acid blocking medication. Now you're anxious. You're starting to get depressed, you're getting a bit fatigued. As you mentioned, now you're getting some hormonal issues, some hormonal symptoms like breast tenderness or PMS or irritability. You've got this dysbiosis growing in your gut. So you have this bacterial infection. It could be multiple things: strep, staph, Klebsiella, Pseudomonas, Morganella. And now you've got beta glucuronidase issues. Now you're recirculating all this estrogen. You're creating more problems with the gallbladder. Maybe you get the gallbladder removed. Now you're in really big trouble. Then that leads to the diet. So then you read some guy on the internet who says you need to be doing 70 to 80% vegetables. So now you're doing all these veggies and you're even more bloated and you're even more gassy and you don't know why. So you're hitting broccoli. You're trying to force all these leafy greens down, a lot of raw vegetables. Maybe you're doing a lot of avocado, these higher FODMAP foods that are fermenting in the gut. This is a case where you've got to really, to me, the best, most beneficial thing I've seen for these cases, get the diet very simple, focus on good quality animal proteins, and for a time being, minimize your vegetables so that you can let the gut rest.
Yeah, absolutely.